The ghosts
Bas-
kill the girls, the house kills the
it's
girls, the strange...
First off, I don't remember this part. Straight up, I do not remember. Quack.
Welcome to another episode of the Little Duck Book Club with duck number 1,
Ren and deck number 2.
Anna. And today we wanted to try a different format for a video suggested by duck number 1, which is keep, burn, and rewrite. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's basically fuck, marry, kill for books, is what I would like to describe it. That's how I floated the idea. The basic idea is you pick 3 books for the other person, and they have to decide which book they want to keep as is, which one they would rewrite, and which one they would just burn. Or discard, or whatever you want to say. As in, like, if you were an agent and you got this manuscript, you'd be like, nah, fuck this, and you put it in the trash pile.
Which is very mean. Because so I looked at Ren's Goodreads, and there's a magical place called the 3-star review for Ren, which is everything from, yeah, it was kind of okay, but could have been better. And I do not want to give this 2 stars, but mentally I'm already there, but I'm giving it 3 stars. So I went through that. I went through that list, and I was like, oh, this is a lot of potential for like a fun introspection on books.
Yeah.
And you went for my 5 stars.
I went evil, yeah. I was like, you know what? I want this to be a hard decision, but hard in terms of like which one you'll have to throw away.
Yeah.
So I picked some that I knew you really liked, and I was like, hee 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 hee.
It was really hard. The hardest was actually the rewrite, because I was like, all right, I will have to like discard one of these books, but I like all of them. So what is there to rewrite for me? But yeah.
That's interesting, because like I feel like for me personally, I guess that's also why I proposed the whole thing. I love conceptualizing, new ideas for something I already liked. And normally I always have like in the back of my head, oh, but if you had done this, the story could also be good. So I feel like the rewriting part is the easiest one. I was for a while really struggling on which one I wanted to keep. Actually, I was like,
yeah,
dude, I don't like any of these.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the books I gave you. 2 of them were books that I knew you had problems with. So, and the third one, I was like, it sounds interesting. Why did Ren hate it? So...
It's a 3-star. I did not hate it. Like, again, like 3 stars is everything from, like, oh, it was, like, fine to, boy, howdy, does this have a lot of problems, but also it's, like, not bad enough to be a 2-star.
So, the books I gave Ren are To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo, Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim, and House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig.
Yeah.
Those were the 3 books you got from me.
I didn't. I didn't keep a list of what I gave you. I know it was
I can hold them up
Iron
if you
Widow.
want. You can see them.
Iron Widow by Jiran J. Zhao, A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, and it was also...
Long Way to a Small Angry Planet.
The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet.
By Becky Chambers. You did it dirty on me.
I also was like, ooh, I'm gonna try to take different genres. Let's see what's like winning here, what's losing. Let's see.
So how do we want to do this? Do we want to just start with like the keep or the burn or the rewrite?
Yeah, I think it's like, let's start with the ones where it's like, or I guess it would be useful to start with like a quick summary. So for each book when we talk about, but I guess it makes sense to start with the short ones. So either like keep or burn. Because, there's not that much to say other than, I like it.
Okay, then let's start with the keep. Let's start with the positive. I mean, all of mine are positive, but,
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm gonna start. The one I'm keeping is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. I'm just gonna read the summary from the back of the book.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, I have a heart for every year I've been alive. There are 17 hidden in the sand of my bedroom. Every so often, I claw through the shingle just to check they're still there, buried deep and bloody. Princess Lyra is siren royalty and revered across the sea until she is cursed into humanity by the ruthless sea queen. Now Lyra must deliver the heart of the infamous siren killer or remain a human forever. Prince Elian is heir to the most powerful kingdom in the world and captain to a deadly crew of siren hunters. When he rescues a drowning woman from the ocean, she promises to help him destroy siren kind for good. But he has no way of knowing whether he can trust her. And like, it's
So wait,
fine.
it's a siren queen and siren hunter kind of.
Yeah,
thing.
it's a siren princess who gets turned into... It's very much like a Little Mermaid retelling, vaguely.
okay.
She has red hair and all, so... And, like, a beautiful voice. And, it's fine. Like, it's the one where I'm like, it's fine. This actually was, like, kind of hard to choose because I was like, maybe I'll rewrite this one. Because, like, it does have potential, but ultimately it's just kind of... The issue I have with it, that it's just kind of boring. Like, there isn't really anything that stands out to me that you could fix. Like, it's fine. Again, like, the plot is okay. There's a lot of stuff where I was like... I was actually surprised. When I read it, I felt like it was way too fast-paced. Like, the relationship development didn't have a lot of room to breathe. It was, like, you know, the typical romantasy problem of, like, the story telegraphs to you that these will obviously be people who fall in love, but the actual way there isn't really satisfying in how it's portrayed. And when I checked again, I was like, wait, this is 350 pages? I would have bet it was less. I would have been like, I could have sworn this was like 250 to like 280 pages. No, it was way longer than I thought. But yeah, there isn't like anything specific I would change. I'd just be like, yeah, you just need to take the ideas that are there and do them more effectively. Like, again, it's like, it's fine. I wouldn't really recommend it particularly unless, like, you were very specifically looking for a kind of book because it has, like, Siren X Siren Hunter, but in itself I don't find it particularly compelling. The characters are kind of, you know... Again, they're, like, fine, but they're not super memorable. I didn't remember their names. I was just vaguely remembering what kind of happened, but, like, it's...
Yeah. Wasn't that the book with was it, like, Italian words being used, or, like, a certain language that was super, like, used in a way where people said this person has never, like, this person used Google Translate, basically, for...
I think this might be the case, yeah.
For some language, I can't remember which.
I love this. I just opened the book and the name jumped out at me, which is Rycroft. Rycroft. I'm like, what kind of name is this?
And this person watched Sherlock from BBC and was like, this Mycroft dude. He's little rye bread. The vibe is the same.
Yeah, it's just, I remember just finding it, like, not super compelling. Like, I liked the premise. And it sounds fun, but ultimately it's like, it's hindered by, it's very juvenile, I guess, for what the premise is. Like, I read the back to you, it's like, oh, she kills princess and has collected 17 hearts over her life, one for each year.
Yeah.
And, like, it sounds brutal, and there are brutal scenes, but they're just, like, they're the kind of juvenile brutality where you're just, it's not impactful. It's just, like, oh, but then the characters still behave, like, silly and ridiculous at a lot of times, so it's like, yeah.
Like, I ripped your heart out, or...
No, more like, you know, we're supposed to take that part seriously and take seriously that, you know, he could kill her if he finds out she's a siren or whatever. But then they have banter and stuff, or just, like, other scenes. She behaves in a way that's like, girl, are you stupid? Like, do you think these people won't connect dots. Like, you need to pretend to be human.
Like,
if
it doesn't
you want this
match
to
the
work.
intensity.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't quite match.
That is something I've finally gotten over my first hurdle of like reading Fourth Ring again, because my curiosity can't be curbed. I have to read, like,
I mean, and you bought it. You might as well.
yeah,
read
I might
it,
as
right?
well
Like, you
read
own
it. I bought it in the beginning when the hype just started. And there's the same thing where the heroine, she's like, the situation she's in, she should look at it a little bit more gravely. And she has these moments where she's like, oh yeah, well, you know, I missed some serious shit. But then it gets covered by the funny banter, because
She's
we
like,
need to
"I'm in
have
some
funny
serious
banter.
Shit, but my scalp tingles."
Is it Spider-Man or what?
No, isn't that a thing she has every time the male love interest like stares at her? She feels her
Oh,
scalp
yeah,
tingling.
she gets some
I heard
tingles,
this in a
yeah.
review and I was like, that's the funniest shit you could do.
She gets some tingles, or she like shudders or something. Yeah. It's also one of the most obvious situations of she's not gonna get together with boy A but boy B in like a long time.
Isn't it also just like aesthetically, like the boy she's not getting is the blonde good boy or whatever, and the one she's gonna get together is like dark with dark hair.
Yeah, and he has shadow powers.
Funny.
It's we can talk about this later, but
this isn't about Fourth Ring.
Yeah, but I've been getting into that.
Okay, let's hear your keep.
My keep, as soon as you wrote me those 3 books, I was like, I already have my keep, because I cannot not keep this one, and it's a Monster Calls.
I thought, when you said it, I was like, I bet it's a Monster Calls.
Yeah, because
so
I don't remember whether it was intentional on your part. I don't think so. But you gifted this to me because you were like, I read this once.
Yeah,
I cannot go through this again.
I cried and I was like, I can't read this again. Like, it was amazing, but like, I'm not reading this again. Like,
the thing is, you gave me this like around Christmas, New Year's Eve time, and 2 days after Christmas that year, my grandma died. So I was like, this book deals with grief and stuff. And I came home from our little get-together. I read it that evening. I was lying in my room bawling throughout the grief journey. I've read this so many more times. So there's no way I'm not gonna keep it. So what is it about? I'm just also gonna read the blurb. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Connor has the same dream every night, ever since his mother first fell ill, ever since she started the treatments that don't quite seem to be working. But tonight is different. Tonight when he wakes, there's a visitor at his window. It's ancient elemental, a force of nature, and it wants the most dangerous thing of all from Connor. It wants the truth. I don't know, it's just, I think that it's one of those books that does a very good job of taking emotions and through the eye of a child, laying them out in front of you so you can like see what happens, and it doesn't feel like they're trying to force feed it to you in small steps, because it's a child, so it feels natural.
Yeah, but it also, I feel like the really impactful part about it is that it doesn't feel like trauma porn. Like, it doesn't feel like
exactly.
tragedy for the sake of tragedy. You're like, oh wow, this kid's mom is dying of cancer. That's, but, and like a less skilled writer could make it like, oh, look how sad this is. But it's like super effective. Because it's so realistic in how a child would deal with it. And it's such an honest examination of like the grieving process that starts when someone's still alive, but terminally ill, and it's not getting better. So it's
I love that it focuses on the child as well, like truly not the person that has to go through the treatment, through the illness, but it's not a story about that person. It's a story about the people left behind.
Somebody. It's like,
and
it's about losing a lot. I think
it's just so good.
The magical realism of it is also very well done. It's like, is the monster a metaphor? Is it imagination? Is it just like a dream? Is it, and it's like, it can be all of that depending on how you read it. Because it's just a really well written book.
It's not long. If anybody, it's 220 pages.
It's like, and the print is big, right? Like, it's not,
the print is pretty big. The distance between the lines is big. But I read this in 2 hours.
Yeah,
So
so I
it's
also read this on an afternoon, and then I just sat there crying, and I was like,
just not knowing what to
so
do with your life.
sad.
It's really, again, I saw the list of the 3 books and I was like,
Yeah.
oh
You're like, I
wow.
can't throw this away. There's nothing to change. I
Yeah.
get it.
And I think
Yeah.
if there's, I think if there's a book I would give to people who go through a similar situation, it would be this one. I'd be like, here,
Yeah.
go read it, because there's like the obvious emotions that get handled in the book, but also the
Yeah.
conflicting, shitty emotions that you feel
Yeah.
like bad about feeling. Because again, you're the
Yeah.
person left behind. You're not the one dying. So
Yeah, it's also very good at like portraying the emotions that like
like
a lot of
survivor's
trauma
guilt.
porn that's about like portraying the good survivor or like the good grieving person doesn't go into, and they're so important and so normal to have that it's really good that they're there. But I know that a lot of times when fiction deals with loss, those are not in there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so
So just an overall chef's kiss. If I could give a book 6 stars, I would give it this.
Yeah,
All the
you're
stars.
this is like 5 stars with like a cherry on top, and like this.
And I've watched the movie too, and it's also brilliant. And if you've watched the movie and you liked it, definitely read the book, because it's like text hits harder sometimes. You're really like
Yeah, I mean, experiencing the internality of a character just hits harder. Like there are things that movies also just have easier because like music does a lot. Score and music does so much. so much. That's one thing I have with like horror books. A lot of them I've tried to read just don't hit the same because it's the soundtrack isn't there, which does a lot for me in horror stuff. But,
That's so far Christina Henry has done a good job in horror for me.
She's doing really well with it. Like,
she makes me feel uncomfortable in the best way.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of bad horror spends a lot of time viscerally describing stuff, but if you're reading, it's not important. It's not like, right? Like you're reading it and it's like, okay, but if it's a tense situation, I'm not taking the time to visualize all of this on purpose. I want to know what happens next. So I'm just, if you start 5 paragraphs of description of creepy shit, I'm just gonna start skimming and get to the interesting part. But
yeah, that was my keep. It was a very quick decision for me. It was like,
valid.
Really
Your keep is for the opposite reasons to mine. Mine's like, well, it doesn't work for the other category, so I guess I gotta keep this one.
So what is your burn?
My burn is House of Salt and Sorrows, which I have debated about this, because I was like, I remember when I read this, I was really disappointed. I remember while reading it, I was like, oh yeah, that's fine, and I ended it kind of unsatisfied. But the problem was also that I don't remember anything. Like, you showed me the covers and I was just like, oh, I vaguely remember something, a vibe. I don't remember anything. Like, and now I've been like, maybe if I skim through it again, I'll have like a good jumping off point for a rewrite and I could work it. Then I was like, no, if it's so unmemorable, it's not worth it. Like, if I don't even remember a good reason to... Like, now, in fairness, I read this, like, 6 years ago, when it came out in 2018 or something. Yeah. But also, still, it's like, nothing stuck with me. I was like, was there something with a love interest? There was, like, something with sisters. I think it was inspired by a fairy tale. So, like, when I read the description again on the back, I was like, oh, yeah, this sounds like something I would read. I forgot so much of it, so I was like, this has to go. But I'll still read you this summary. Annalay lives a sheltered life at Highmoor, a manor by the sea, with her sisters and their father and stepmother. Once there were 12, but loneliness fills the grand halls now that 4 of the girls' lives have been cut short. Disturbed by a series of ghostly visions, Annalay becomes increasingly suspicious that her sisters' deaths were not accidents. The girls have been sneaking out every night to attend glittering balls, dancing until dawn in silk gowns and shimmering slippers, and Annalay isn't sure whether to try to stop them or join their forbidden trysts. Because who or what are they really dancing with? When Annalay's involvement with a mysterious stranger who has secrets of his own intensifies, it's a race to unravel the darkness that has fallen over her family before it claims her next.
So
it's like
the ghosts kill the girls, the house kills the girls, the strange...
First off, I don't remember this part. Straight up, I do not remember. Like I said, I barely remember anything. I was like, oh yeah, it's based on the 12 Dancing Princesses, okay.
The Barbie
movie. I remember.
movie.
I like the fairy tale, I think it's fun. And I was like, okay, yeah, a book based on that could be interesting. But straight up, I don't know anymore. I think a reveal near the end was that the dancing at night was just something Annalay like hallucinated the entire time or something.
Oh.
Because that was also something I found really disappointing. I hate when books do that where they're like, oh, but this part was just a dream. She was just hallucinating. And it's like, oh, this doesn't really add much to the story, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like if you're promising me like a fantasy horror story and you're like, oh, but all the horror elements were just things she imagined, don't worry about it. It's like, well, now I feel kind of betrayed. Because it's not even... Like, yeah, several scenes I think imply that other people aren't perceiving it, but like, that doesn't necessarily mean anything in horror. And it's also not well written enough as a unreliable narrator or as like, where it makes sense. Where it's satisfying that, like, oh, she was really just imagining it, and while she was imagining it, this and this, it was just like, eh. But, really, I don't remember what happened to the sisters. I don't remember.
But did you look it up again? Like, did you try to find out?
No, I didn't. I was like, you know what, it's not worth it. I flipped through some pages, and there was a conversation about some kind of, like, family, something about their family history, and, like, a local legend or something, and I was like, I remember none of this. And then I closed the book again. I was like, I give up. I can't. I'm not reading the book again for this. It's not good. I'm not keeping it. This has to burn. I don't even remember. And like, you know me, I have a good memory for stories usually.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that I don't remember any of this speaks such volumes to me. It's like, okay, this has to go. I can't keep it.
I mean, you read, like, a lot. Like, you read a fuck ton of books. So, at some point, I know you're ridiculously good at remembering plots and stuff. But at some point, we've got to cut your brain some slack, you know?
Yeah, but I'm also like, I feel like a horror story with the 12 Dancing Princesses is like a blueprint. I would have remembered this if it were good. Like, if there were memorable parts of it, they would have stuck, because I haven't really read anything else with these elements. Like, I don't think I've ever read anything else that's inspired by the 12 Dancing Princesses. I should remember. Because I remember when I finished it, I was like, yeah, it was fine. Probably if I read it now, I'd be like, this is 2 stars. Because I just can't remember. It's full blank.
Honestly, I think, but you don't have to, but I think it would be so funny for you to actually read it again.
Yeah,
and be like,
huh.
What, like, rate it again? Like, write a review being like, I read this 6 years ago, couldn't remember anything, I read it again. Now it's a star less, you know? Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean, the funniest part also is that the blurb is like, step inside a fairy tale from Stephanie Garber, a well-known, also not good YA author, who's very popular, but whose books suck ass. So
what did she write? Did she write Caraval or what it was?
Caraval, yeah.
Yeah.
The author of Caraval and its sequels and spin-offs or whatever.
Also something I've never read, but that was always kind of on my periphery of, maybe. But...
I mean, I have it. I can lend it to you. I read it when it came out, and I saw the cover, and I was like, "Oh, this looks sick."
Because the cover is stunning,
so and mine even has like glitter stuff. It's such a pretty cover, and like the description also sounds really interesting. And it was one of the first books I read when I got really into reading again. When I was like 19, whatever.
I was about to say, this sounds like back when you were still hopeful for new releases.
Yeah, when I was like, oh, this sounds cool, new book, and I was also watching a lot of BookTube, and all of them had been scented and like were promoting, and I was like, oh, actually, this sounds good, and it looks nice. Let's try this. And when I first read it, I was like, I mean, it's fine. I don't know what all these 1-star reviews like. Of course, it adds onto that like at the time I was not reading a lot in English, so obviously, I have I had a much higher tolerance for bad writing, just on the craft, like just on like word choice and everything, because it's like, it's not my native language, so I don't care that much. I don't get the visceral weird feeling as if I were reading bad writing in German. And I was like, I don't know,
like a reoccurring topic for us.
Yeah, when I read it, I was like, yeah, it's kind of okay, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But then, like, I revisited it later again, I was like, this shit sucks so bad. Oh my god. But yeah, which one are you throwing out? Now I'm curious.
You know, it's I was texting you frantically throughout the week, being like, I still can't decide. And this was less of a this needs to burn. It was more of a I'm sorry, I can't rewrite you kind of decision.
Yeah, I can't rewrite you, but I need to keep a monster call, so...
Exactly. I was like, at one point, I was like kind of hallucinating in my brain, like, can I rewrite a monster calls? No. So, no. I'm sorry. So the book to burn, like a glorious phoenix, is Iron Widow. I do not feel equipped to take the plot of this book and do anything else with it. So it burns in a glorious flame of rage that this book is.
You're throwing it in the pit, like, crying. You're like, I'm sorry! And I'm just like, yeah, fuck this book.
Sacrificing it. Okay. Oh no, I'm gonna butcher all of the Chinese names. I should have looked them up before. In Huaxia, the highest honor for a young girl is to be selected as a concubine pilot. Supporters paired up with male pilots to power up chrysalises, the giant transforming mechas that humanity relies on to battle the massive aliens that lurk beyond the Great Wall. But the honor often ends in death, and when 18-year-old Zetian's sister is killed by an ace male pilot, Zetian signs up to avenge her. The vengeance is swift, brutal, and unexpected, leaving Zetian labeled as an Iron Widow, a much-feared kind of female pilot who can sacrifice boys to power up chrysalises instead of the other way around. To tame her unnerving yet invaluable mental strength, she is paired up with Li Shimin, the strongest and most controversial male pilot in Huaxia. But now that Zetian has had a taste of power, she will not cower so easily. She will miss no opportunity to leverage her and Shimon's combined might and infamy and survive attempt after attempt on her life, until she can figure out exactly why the pilot system relies so heavily on destroying girls' lives and dismantle it for good. Yeah. Read the book still, just because I'm, throwing it into... the pit.
I might,
doesn't mean it's bad.
Eventually get to it. I will probably only get to it when the series is finished. I don't know if if it's a duology or more. So
me neither.
So I'm not even starting before it's finished, because I don't care that much, because again, sci-fi is not my favorite playground. It's not. I'm not running to the sci-fi carousel. I'm off to like the fantasy one. But
it's also a special like flavor of sci-fi. Ziran, or just gonna call him Jay. Jay is a huge fan of anime, and it's like that was one of the main inspiration. Mecha, they talk about it often on their social media, and if you don't like anime and you don't like the kind of power crawl pacing of anime, you're not gonna like Iron Widow, because it's basically an anime.
It's controversial online. A lot of people are like, this is the worst shit I've ever read, and some people are like, this is the best shit I've ever read.
Yeah, it's either you like it or not. And for me, it was a huge like with Iron Widow. I enjoyed reading about a female main character who is just batshit crazy and angry in that sense. Like, she's not crazy as in mentally ill. But she's like, I've lived enough of my life. I'm just gonna kill all of you, and if you happen to kill me in the process, then toodaloo, you know, that's what happens.
Yeah.
And that was really refreshing to read. But at the same time, I could not get into like a little crag of the book where it's like, oh, I can start rewriting
like,
stuff
I can't
here.
change it here.
Yeah,
You're like,
because
can't.
I feel like if you change one thing, it goes on a completely different trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the trajectory that Iron Widow was going. So yeah, unfortunately it burns in the pit, but not for long.
You're like, I'm saving it from the pit when you're looking away.
Yeah, just like taking a stick and like pushing it out again on the other side. But yeah, so that means Spin the Dawn is your rewrite.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I think I've talked to you about.
You have.
Spin the
We
Dawn
have talked
before.
about it.
Yeah. So let's read the summary. On the fringes of the Great Spice Road, Maya Tamarin works as a seamstress in the shop of her father, once a tailor of renown. She dreams of becoming the greatest tailor in the land, but as a girl, the best she can hope for is to marry well. When a royal messenger summons her ailing father to court, Maya poses as his son and travels to the summer palace in his place. She knows her life is forfeit if her secret is discovered, but she'll take that risk to save her family from ruin and achieve her dream of becoming the imperial tailor. There's just one catch. Maya is one of 12 tailors vying for the job. The competition is cutthroat, and Maya's job is further complicated by the unwelcome attention of the court enchanter Edan, who seems to see straight through her disguise. But nothing could have prepared her for the final challenge, to sew 3 gowns so dangerously beautiful it will take a quest to the ends of the earth to complete them. So...
It's Project Runway meets Mulan.
Yeah. I mean, I was about to say, I feel like that might be a blurb on it somewhere, honestly.
Oh, really?
Part epic adventure, part fairy tale, and part Project Runway.
Oh my
Spin the
god!
Dawn is a thrilling tale as rich as velvet and as exquisite as fine embroidery. Heidi Heilig, author of Girl from Everywhere.
I love Project
I love that
Runway.
you immediately said.
I love Project Runway. It's
I
yeah.
was like, this description sounds so familiar. I feel like I've read this in the blurb before. So, the thing is, Spin the Dawn is also, like, fine. Again, it's a 3-star read. But it's a 3-star read where I was just... It's the easiest to rewrite from my perspective because the structure of it is just genuinely baffling to me, fundamentally.
Yeah.
Because from what I've read to you, it does sound like the book is about the competition to become the Imperial Tailor, right?
And the journey, yeah.
That's what it sounds like. But she is chosen as the Imperial Tailor at the literal halfway point. And then the other half of the book is a quest around the country to, find the ingredients for those 3 gowns, which are the laughter of the sun, the tears of the moon, and the blood of the stars.
I thought
It's
that's
insane.
I thought that's part of the competition.
Now, that's the thing. It isn't. This book is 400 pages, 200 of which are the competition, and then afterwards, she's sent on the quest. So, the competition is basically, yes, to find the Imperial Tailor, but that tailor is then tasked to work for the betrothed of the Emperor, who is a princess from a warring country who then requests these 3 gowns because she obviously doesn't want her marriage to go through, and she's like, well, you need to bring me these 3 impossible gowns or I'll be real mad. Like, this is supposed to be a betrothal gift from the Emperor, and if he can't deliver, well, then I have a good reason to complain to my dad that this shit sucks and we don't want this piece, actually. So it's very strange. Because the thing is, the competition alone could fill a whole book. It is crazy. Like, the book moves so fast through the competition, I was genuinely confused when I read it first. It's not that the writing is bad or anything, it's just, it's too fast. The there are several tasks, and each of them is very short. They're like 2 chapters maybe. You get so little of like court life or intrigue or anything from that.
Mm-hmm.
So first step in rewriting is like, we're splitting the book in half. This is 2 books now. They don't need to be 400-page books, although they could probably each fill 400 pages, because quite frankly the second half with the quests could also be longer. Like,
yeah.
The weird thing is that this book is in a position that it is so fast paced that it becomes boring, because all the interesting things that happen are not given room to breathe and actually become interesting, but you're just kind of hit over the head over and over with new stuff that's happening. So we're splitting this in half, and so we have more time for the competition. An important thing is, unlike Mulan, she's not the only child in her family, but they have 3 sons, 2 of which died in the war, and the third is disabled from the war, so he can barely walk anymore.
So that's a question. She dresses up. She disguises herself.
She pretends to be the brother who's still alive.
Okay.
Yeah. Because obviously the Empire has records of which soldiers have died.
That was about to be my question. I was like, okay, did she just like make up a 4th brother? Did she pretend to be one of her dead brothers? Like,
no, she's pretending to be the one brother who's still alive and disabled, which is also why she has to walk around with a cane and pretend to, you know, have a war injury while she's there.
Yeah.
And
okay.
somebody takes a moment where she's like in danger and like doesn't pretend and runs fast to like discover that she's not who she pretends to be, which is a good moment when it does happen. So again, as I said, we don't get a lot of time in the palace, but with more time we can also add some more scenes to it which are not, and like some more plot threads which aren't in the book, because again there isn't a lot happening. So the Lady Sarnai, who is the betrothed of the Emperor, there is a scene where she and Maya meet in a garden without anyone else there, because the princess is sneaking around and Maya is also on the way back from the room where they're working on their tailor stuff. And it's like they almost bond, and you could like, it feels like such a waste that the princess doesn't find out that Maya is actually a girl pretending to be a man, because in that scene she brings up that like, oh, you could never understand what it's like to be a woman, you know, you're a man, you could do anything, you're trying to become the imperial tailor, like, even if everybody else here like treats you like shit because you're from bumfuck nowhere and you're the only one who's like very young and not from like, can't say they have like a distinguished master or whatever, like, you're still a man, you can do whatever you want. And like there's and like that in itself would be fine, but then later when we have the reveal at the end of the competition that Maya is a woman, like, we have some kind of reaction from Lady Sarnai, but not a lot, and it feels like such a waste to not actually explore that. Because especially Lady Sarnai is like, her characterization is a little weird because it tries to be 3-dimensional, as in like, oh, she's kind of an antagonist because obviously she doesn't want any imperial tailor to succeed, and she's like, you know, on a larger scale from a warring nation, so there's obviously generally conflict there. But she also has like moments where we're supposed to feel like bad for her or whatever. Like we do get some humanizing moments where it's like, yeah, it does suck to be treated like an object.
Yeah, because she's royalty.
In a political situation, but it's also like, I mean, that is kind of expected of a princess if you live, you know, in safety and splendor, then, you know, this is like the least bad thing to happen to, like, no shade, but like
it still sucks, but
it sucks, but this also happens to poor women who have literally none of your luxury and power, so like, I feel like you're not in the position to really complain. But the thing is, there is a moment where she tries to get Maya to spy on the court enchanter for her. And like, it could be so powerful if she had found out that Maya was a woman.
A girl, yeah.
And used that against her. And it would also be interesting to play with the idea that she could also try to have, they have like some kind of, like, there is a little bit of a connection. And if she decided, I don't want this woman to die, like, that's not, like, as a woman who also is stuck in the system, I don't feel like, I don't want her to win. So I'm just gonna send her home. I'm not gonna reveal it, but okay, you're not gonna spy for me, but like, I'm gonna get you kicked out of the competition so that you can go home and be safe again. And like, you don't win, but also like, I'm not revealing your secret. I'm not letting you and your family be executed, which I think could be a really meaningful choice to make, which would be very humanizing. So that's one thing, that these two have any kind of relationship, because the way it is right now, it's just like kind of like they're both there. That's with a lot of characters, actually, because it's so fast paced. They're just very little you get. That's also for the competition with the other tailors. It's also kind of like really disappointing, because at first you meet them and you're like, oh, cool, I'm gonna learn what kind of different personalities they have, and there's gonna be like alliances and like sabotage and stuff. Because, like, on the first day, somebody already tries to sabotage Maya's stuff because she leaves it unattended for a while. Because she's a country bumpkin who doesn't know that it's, like, a cutthroat competition and people will fuck you over. It's not about skill. But that's also super disappointing, because we have just one guy who, from the beginning, is, like, obviously scheming and is gonna be the antagonist, mainly. And there was, like, one guy who's, like, rude to her because he's like super traditional and thinks that young people are like not good enough or whatever, and then there's one guy who like is nice to her, but we don't get that much, and that's just kind of, I feel like we need more intrigue, we need more like more interesting challenges where these people get to maneuver, and also a moment where I feel like either Maya also gets to maneuver or stands out by, being a kind person who doesn't sink to that level and helps people, even though, it's not benefiting her personally. Like, I feel like that's such a strong chance for characterization that feels so missed, because we mostly just have her ignore everyone else and try to focus on her own stuff and not really interact much. And that feels like such a waste. Why introduce like 12 or 11 other tailors who are like vying for the position? I mean, okay, a few get like sacked after the first task. You don't need to spend that much time on them, but like 4 or 5 other guys with like interesting, constellation. I was missing that. When I read the summary, this is what I expected from it. Like, that's what I thought you would get, but you don't. So that's kind of
so
sad.
how does the competition, how is it portrayed then if all of that is missing? Like
I said, it's very fast. So they arrive first day. First task they have is to make a shawl for Lady Sarnai, and they all get a piece of cloth, all the same dimensions and stuff, that they can do whatever they want with, and they just need to present a shawl. And like, she leaves for a moment to get materials, I think, and when she comes back, someone like spilled tea all over her shawl where she had drawn something on, and it's like ruined the like painting she had already done. And like, a lot of the other ones are making fun of her and like are treating her badly, but they don't have a lot of characterization.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, most of them go out to drink together after the first challenge, and obviously she manages to wrangle her scarf into something nice, and she stays in the competition, and then they go out drinking together, and she doesn't go. She uses the excuse that like she can't walk that far in all the palace steps with her leg, and also she doesn't want to hang out with these people.
Yeah.
Which, like, okay, valid. And again, like a bunch of people get chucked already from the first one. And then we have her interacting with the palace staff a little bit, making friends with her maid, which is a little funny. Like, because obviously from the outside, a lot of people are like, oh, is something going on there? And she's like, why would anything be going on? Because she's
I'm
not
just
aware
talking to this maid.
Like, she's like, I'm not gay, so I'm not aware, but they're all... And the maid also thinks she's a boy, so the maid obviously has a little crush, which is super funny. Like, that's a cute, funny bit that I think is, like, fun. And a lot of other servant girls also like her, because obviously she treats them nicely, because she's so kind. Not from a rich family or anything. She's just like, I was in a similar position. Like, I know I'm treating you like people. it's really that one's a funny bit. But then the second thing is, oh god, what was the second thing? There was a thing where they're supposed to make slippers. Then they were supposed to make but the slippers have to be made with like unusual materials. So she gives them like glass and ceramics and stuff that they're supposed to incorporate. And then there's one where they're supposed to make a jacket out of paper. And then the last one is just a gown, I think. But we really don't get... Like, we get a few descriptions of what the other people's stuff looks like at the end.
Yeah.
But it's very focused on Maya doing her own stuff, really.
Yeah, okay.
We don't get that much from the other ones.
Huh.
Right, that leads me to another important thing. In the story, Maya's family has a family heirloom, which are a pair of magical scissors, which basically, I don't know how it helps with the rest of it, but which basically help you create incredibly beautiful garments and creations, basically. They're basically like magical tailoring scissors. They just help you do all of it. And she obviously brings them to the competition, uses them, that's how she saves the scarf. And then after the first trial, she finds out that Lady Sarnai hates magic, and obviously no one knows that she used the scissors yet, because she keeps them secret. But then she's like, oh, maybe I should win without the scissors, but in the end she ends up using them anyway, because... Obviously, then when she has to make the magical gowns out of magical materials, like,
she has to.
She needs them. Like, otherwise, she can't do it. But the thing is, like, the scissors are very much portrayed as like the book does acknowledge it, that it feels like undermining her own skill and craft to use them to win, because it's not actually her skill. It's just the magic imbued in the scissors. Yeah, it's not. Like, it's very clearly the scissors' work, not her own. And, I'm a little torn about that, because I do get it, and, like, the court enchanter also tells her then that, everyone is using a bit of magic. Like, the other guys, like, the palace chef is using a little magic to make the emperor's meals especially good. Like, you can use it. Like, other people are also cheating.
It's fine.
Can use it.
We're all cheating.
Like, girly, use the scissors. And I get that. Like, obviously, the competition doesn't need to be fair. But on the other hand, it also feels like... I don't know. The story wants me to feel like she's competent, and the scissors undermine that at least somewhat at several points where it's like... I feel like the story could be improved if at some point somebody else tried to use the scissors, and we'd had one time the court enchanter Eden use them, and like it doesn't work at all because he's not a tailor. He doesn't know any of this, so the magic doesn't help him, even though he can do magic himself. The scissors don't do anything. Like, it's so shit because he doesn't know how to do any of it, and then have a different tailor like think they figured out, oh, those scissors are like magical, and try to use them for their own stuff, but it doesn't work as well either because they also don't really know what to do there. Like, I feel like it would be helpful if the scissors were portrayed as more of a combination of skill and magic, and not just like, oh, these magical scissors can just like do anything for you.
Like, make it need a little bit of skill to use the scissors.
Make it meaningful. And I also, like, it's a family heirloom, and the story later implies that her family is descendant from, like, a tailoring god or whatever who originally made these mythical dresses for the goddess or whatever. It's like, okay, fine, but also it's always like, I'm not a huge fan of like the bloodline thing.
Yeah.
It's always like, oh, you need to be born special, you know? It's
Yeah.
not, it's, you can't achieve things if you don't happen to come from a bloodline that's already powerful. And, you know, so it's like, yeah, I don't love this part, but okay. But yeah, so, okay, we've gotten to the scissors. Then let's talk about Eden. The court enchanter, he is obviously the love interest. It's not quite... I do appreciate that it's not super telegraphed at the beginning. Like, when we meet him, it's not immediately like, oh, he's so beautiful, and, like, I feel a connection. Like,
Her scalp tingles.
You don't read... Yeah, you know, you don't read it and you're like, oh, he's the love interest. You read it and you're like, oh, he's kind of a dick. I like him. He's funny. You know?
Yeah,
Or at least
yeah.
I was that. I was like, haha, he's kind of funny. I like him. He's kind of a weirdo. I support him. And, you know, that's good. But because the story is so rushed and so much happens, the relationship development is so weird to me. Like, I did not feel it at all. At some point,
the relationship in general, or the romantic aspect of it?
the romantic aspect especially, but also in general, because the competition doesn't take long. It takes like a week, 2 weeks. It's not long.
I
She's
mean,
not
don't
long.
knock it. Crescent City 3 happens in a week.
That's true, but Crescent City is like a special case, you know? It's like, I mean, you can't compare everything. But for developing a relationship, especially because he almost immediately knows she's not a man. Like, he immediately knows she's not her brother, because he has, like, through his magic, it allows him, like, greater insight into stuff, and he can tell. He knows she's lying about it. And of course, this makes her super uncomfortable, because it's like, you work directly for the Emperor, who would kill me and my entire family if he found out. Of course,
So
I don't trust you.
So she knows that he knows?
Yeah, he tells her that. You know. He makes
okay.
it pretty obvious. Yeah, and he keeps annoying her. And he, of course, at first he's, like, intrigued because of the scissors as well. It's like, oh, you're a woman. Oh, that's magic. That's cool. And he's also the one who's like, you can just use it. Everyone does. Like, you don't have to tell people about it, but you can just use it. It's fine. Which, of course, he's a magic user, so of course he would say it's, like, fine.
Of course he would say it's fine, yeah.
But yeah, so they bond a bit, and he, like, helps her a little bit when she gets sabotaged and stuff. At some point, one of the competitors tries to set fire in the room where everyone has their paper jackets, and she's in there and tries to save everyone else's and hers as well. But the guy's still there and, like, breaks her arm or something to try to, you know...
Ruthless.
Yeah, I mean... valid. Like, if I was in a cutthroat competition, I would also be like, yeah, fuck this guy.
No, I mean, she saw that he put the fire there.
Yeah.
She's trying to save the jackets. It's like, well...
He's like, yeah, get fucked.
Yeah, like, no regrets.
He was like, I'm working hard to set this fire. Stop trying to stop my sabotage. But, yeah, so he has... And they you know, they have some relationship, but it's not... I didn't feel like it was enough time. And then when she's sent out on the quest, he disobeys the Emperor's orders for him to stay and goes with her to help her, because he knows if she goes along, she'll die, basically. And while they're on the way, like, there's more romantic stuff, but I did not find it compelling. Especially because later you find out he's like 500 years old, and again, I'm like, what does he see in her? Like,
I was about to ask, like, because the court enchanter gives me old person vibes, so I was like, okay, how old?
He looks young, but he is.
It's like the reverse
because
anime.
It's magic.
Like,
yeah,
young
you know,
body,
it's
old
like,
blue.
It's like, whatever, their relationship is fine, they, like, get along, but I didn't find it compelling. Like, the way it was written, it was just like, I feel like when you're trying to find, you know, the laughter of the sun and like have to risk your life in a sun temple in the desert, the last thing you're thinking about is whether you want to fuck this weirdo who's saving. Like, I feel like this is the wrong time for it, because they're also, during their quest, pursued by the men from like bandits and other and people sent by the other kingdom to like catch him and like kill him, or just catch him, because without him the emperor loses power and stuff. There's like a fun subplot where like everyone who sees the emperor is like, wow, he's so beautiful and strong and intimidating, and like and it's magic, like it's Eden's magic, he's making this happen, which I think is a good thing, where you're like, this is really good, fun. This is what an emperor would do. There's like a fun scene in like the gardens where Maya sees the emperor for the first time, and she's like, wow, she felt so drawn to him, he was so beautiful and like everything, but she's also like, it felt almost unnatural how much she like adored him just from seeing him. And Ian's standing off to the side, and he's just like, dude, you should stop staring at the emperor, it's not, you shouldn't get caught doing that, you're not supposed to do that.
But I mean,
it's like,
he's responsible for it.
Yeah, no, but like in a stratified society that's like inspired by Chinese imperial rule, it's like, you're not supposed to look at those people directly, especially where they can catch you doing. You could get flogged for that. Especially if you're like lowborn, like Maya is not from like a noble family or anything. But it's like really funny. Like it is a good part, and like you find out that Eden is magically bound to the emperor, because to become an enchanter you have to basically swear an oath to an object, and whoever holds the object holds your oath. So basically you get magical powers, but you have to be in service to people. You don't get to be free, like it's not powerful, which I think is cool. I think if you can get cool magical powers, you should, you know, pay some price for it, and in that case that's his freedom. But I don't know how I would fix this, honestly, because I don't I mean, I know how I would fix it. I'd be like, just strike the romantic part of the relationship, and
then it's fine.
Yeah, because honestly, again, I'm like, if you're 500 years old, like, even if that's an exceptional, like, I don't know, 18, 20-year-old, whatever, you're 500 years old. What are the, like, you have met so many 20-year-olds. How exceptional can they be to, you know?
I mean, he must be really horny then. Because it's like, I imagine if you're 500 years old, you've met so many people, and I feel like usually I would imagine, because people don't get 500 years old, but I would imagine that if you've lived that long, the people who most entice you and inspire you are the ones that have a lot of, like, usually a lot of knowledge, experience, skill, and those people tend to be older, usually. So a 19-year-old, on average, would not be the one that catches your interest, because you've met so many other exceptional people. So what is left? He thinks she's hot.
I mean,
I guess.
Especially because I feel like from the writing, Maya doesn't come across as exceptional. She's not exceptionally driven. She's not exceptionally kind. She's not exceptionally anything. She's in a difficult situation, and she's like, no, I need to win because my family needs money to live. And like, someone had to be sent here, and if I'm caught, I am dead, and my family is dead, and I love my family, so of course I want to protect them. And I care about my country, so obviously I also care about this peace treaty going through and stuff. But she's not, like, it's not an outstanding anything. Like, it's normal that people care a lot about their family and want to make sacrifices. It's normal that country bumpkins are not schemers and good at tricking people. Like, she's not especially honest or anything. She's just bad at deceit. Like, that's another thing. She's like, at several times while she's in the summer palace, where basically you have to expect the walls to have ears. She keeps talking to herself about stuff. I'm like, maybe don't do that. I feel like you shouldn't. I feel like in that situation you should be aware to not do that. It feels a little too stupid for my taste. That's like, it's such a
Can't
silly
you just
thing.
think that to herself? Like,
She could, but it's in, like, it is marked as speech.
yeah, I
It's
mean, that's
not-
why
yeah,
you couldn't make it, like, there's, especially, that's what books are for. Like, books are so easy to do, like, introspection and monologuing while still taking somebody along a scene. Like, in film, as we discussed earlier, you would need to make, like, an executive choice of having like, a narrator. But in the book,
Yeah.
you can just
You
go.
can just do that. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, there's also the thing that at the end of the competition, there's only her and the obviously evil guy left, and she shows that his gown was made with magic, so it's not actually his, like, skill, and he reveals that she's a woman. And then it's like...
I used magic, but she has a vagina.
Yeah, and he's like, and women are only half people, so she can't do this job. And then the court enchanter is like, yeah, but even if, like, Lady Sarnai pretends to like your gown more, I know you're spying for her, like, she's paying you, so we can't put you in this important position because you're not trustworthy. So at the end they keep her on, and the emperor is like, yeah, I told Aidan to remove everyone's memories who were there, so nobody knows you're a woman. You still have to pretend to be a man.
Oh my god. So is this some, like, some sexism in the book, as in the whole society is sexist and she
Yeah.
could never do this? Okay.
Yeah, it's inspired by Imperial China, so it's like women are...
So they kept that part. Okay, yeah.
Women are not really, people who can do much of anything other than be wives and, servants.
I mean, yeah, then it makes sense that they, like...
No, of course, it's that part makes sense, but it's still... It's so funny because the way she reveals his gown is, like, with magic. She, like, throws water on it and it washes away the magic. It's just... And then he rips open her gown to show that she has tits, which means she's a woman. And it's just, like, this is such a funny showing of, like, your new imperial tailor, and it's this kind of it's just, it's so funny.
Yeah.
Looking from the outside, it just feels...
How many people did they need to brainwash? Like...
I mean, there weren't, I think, that many people around. It was, like, Lady Sarnai, her servants, but it's, like, it's still funny. It just fundamentally, conceptually, it's just
I would love to know what's going through that guy's head. He's like, shit. She, like, threw water on mine. She exposed me for magic. I'm just gonna show her
I have an
titties.
ace. Yeah. I have an ace up my sleeve. I know she's a woman. Haha.
I have an
win.
ace inside of her sleeve.
Yeah. But yeah, no, so at the end, like, yeah, the emperor knows she's a woman, but he's like, well, you're competent, and everyone else was already dismissed, and I can't take that guy because he's willing to spy on me, so I'm stuck with you. Now make these magical gowns for my betrothed. But yeah, again, like, it's not badly written, but it all feels so fast that it doesn't work. And then you have the quest. So first they sunlight in the desert, in a temple in the desert, they catch it to then spin into yarn and make a gown. Then the moonlight, they get in at full moon, they climb up a mountain, and in, like, a cave in there, the moonlight, like, collects on the bottom of a lake, and she has to swim in there, and it's super cold, and then Ida has to warm her up, and then they make out, whatever. And then the blood of the stars, they collect. And then there's when it starts getting odd, because this book, and I also had this gripe with A Magic Steeped in Poison, is really strange in its introduction of magical elements. Because we start the book with the main character being like, oh, I don't believe in magic, I don't believe in ghosts, I don't believe in any of this. And then at the end, when they're on, like, an evil, dark, cursed island where ghosts live, where they're trying to find the blood of the stars, it turns out ghosts are real and tangible, and they affect the real world, and demons are also real and can, like, affect you and kill you. And it's like, what do you mean you don't believe in ghosts? Ghosts
But-
are obviously real. Why does no one believe in ghosts? Why did you not believe in magic when people are using magic in craft all the time?
That's what I wanted to ask. Like, her scissors are magic.
Yeah.
Why would she think that magic isn't real? Or if she's like, oh, well, look at these magical scissors, maybe ghosts are also real.
In fairness, at first she hasn't used the scissors. They're like a family heirloom, and she uses them at the she takes
But
them.
as soon as she, like, uses them.
Yeah, I was also like, wait, why would anyone in this world not believe in ghosts when they're actually real and, like, can affect people? And they tangibly exist. They kill people. They turn people into ghosts. Like, they're why would you not? Very strange. I was like, and then, like, obviously also the fact that you know, can make these magical dresses, and at the end of the story, near the end, the main character puts on one of the dresses, the one made from starlight, and talks to the goddess, and is like, what do you mean the gods are so real and tangible? And, like, you didn't really believe in the stories at first. What do you mean you don't believe in if these people intervene with the world? Why would you not be religious? If tangibly gods are real and do interact with the world, I'm losing my mind.
Maybe she's just very skeptic.
Yeah, it's so strange because, like, the magical elements get sprung on you so crazy. Because, like, okay, magical scissors that a tailor can use to make great gown. That's a believable, like, magical element. It's, like, whimsical, yeah, fits. An enchanter who sold his freedom to gain magical power to you. Okay, fair. Other people can, like, use a little bit of magic through, like, rituals or... Okay, that's, like... Okay, I get it. That's, like, a normal... But then, like, no, there's a real tangible island that's, like, perpetually dark and it's filled with ghosts and demons. And it's like, what? The jump is crazy. The jump is literally insane.
I mean, especially when you said it's 200 pages of the quests.
Yeah, and like, the ghost island gets introduced, like, maybe after 300 pages. Like, it's very late. You get to the ghost super late, and then it turns out, oh yeah, Eden knows some of those ghosts, and he knows demons, and he has made, like, and one of the evil demons that tries to, I don't know, kill Maya. I'm not entirely sure what he's trying, but something bad.
Nothing good,
It's like his previous master who's, like, turned into a demon and has become evil. He was an enchanter, and it's like, where is this coming from? How is this not more present in the world building before? That ghosts are legitimately real, and that, like, malevolent spirits are real, and that there's... The fact that it's introduced that's all. This needs to be rewritten. We need to include magical elements from the get-go.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's there in this strange way. It was really confusing.
I'm also trying to imagine being the sorcerer guy.
Yeah.
And you're looking to your right, and she's, like, losing her mind. She's like, oh my fucking god, it's a ghost. And you're like, well, that's Greg. I talk to Greg every single day, you know.
Yeah, it's like, don't let the ghosts touch you. They can turn you into a ghost. And she's like, what do you mean there's ghosts? Ghosts are real?
It's like, girl, open your fucking eyes.
But, like, really, the story just... It's so strange that there are not more supernatural threats generally, if that is where the story is working towards.
If that threat is possible,
Because it feels like it's working towards that. Because, like, then the demon is, like, menacing Maya, and, like, he has some kind of, like, hold over Eden, and, like, when Maya at the end talks to the goddess, she's like, offered a favor, and she's like, yeah, please free Eden, and then that transfers his debt to the demon to her, because somebody's gotta have it. Like, the demon signed a contract. We can't break contract law here. It's a super... But, like, so, like, it looks like in the next book it's gonna get more supernatural. Like, that's more important.
Yeah.
So it's just... Why is the supernatural stuff not in there from the beginning? It's very strange. So that's also something that needs to be changed. Absolutely. We need, like, we can have you can have malevolent ghosts and spirits from the beginning, especially like in a small town that doesn't get like doesn't have like a military presence to protect them or anything, or a lot of resources. Those would be the places where you have ghost stories and malevolent ghosts actually like doing a lot of damage, because
they're not being
you can't
disturbed or
afford the
anything.
people who would keep them away or whatever, right? So yeah, most important rewrite: split the book into 2 books, make the competition longer. You need more magical stuff from the beginning. It's very yeah. It's
I mean, when you said we have 2 overall plots, I was thinking, that sounds like it should be 2 books. Next thing you say,
it does
we're making 2 books out of it.
I was like, immediately, I was like, no, I need to rewrite this one because it's such an obvious point to change the story. It's just...
Yeah.
I'm so confused about it. Anyway, and again, not to say, like, the book as it is right now, it's, like, fine. It's not bad. And if you like very fast-paced things, it's probably more appealing to you than to me. I found it too fast. I found it uninteresting because so much had to be reduced to summaries and wasn't actually explored. But,
I also feel like there's 2 different flavors of fast-paced. It's genuinely too fast, and it feels like a fun, fast roller coaster. Because if it's like a fun roller coaster that's fast, you're enjoying the ride. You're like, oh my god, thing is happening, and blah, blah. But if it's too fast to comprehend, then it's like, okay, why am I even reading?
It's not just if it's too fast to comprehend, but it's about what the point of your story is. Because the point of a competition is to experience the competition, meet the other competitors, see how they stack up against each other, see how they try to snipe at each other and stuff. That's the interesting part. You can't just keep summaries of that and show me like interactions with other characters outside the competition. It's not what I'm here. You promised me a competition.
It's like, imagine the Hunger Games was like super short. It's like 3/4. I mean, the book is half about the first Hunger Games book. Half is like preparation and stuff, and then the other half is the actual games. But imagine the actual games just being like 50 pages
chapters,
of...
Yeah, it's like...
Yeah.
Like, it just is strange, because a story about a competition ought to give breathing room to the competitors, because it's not interesting if you don't actually know what the competition, like, who the competitors are and what about them threatens, like, it's about the tension, right? It's about the build-up to the final judgment, and who gets, sent home, what...
Because that's the interesting part. Like, of course, whatever the competition thematically is about is interesting as well.
Yeah,
but
it's
just
not
look
really
at competition shows on TV.
Yeah, it's not really about what the people, like, oh, they produced this and this and this, and we describe what everyone did for this task, and then we say who went home. It's like, no, but you need the working part, right? That's the interesting part. So fast pacing over that loses the point of the story. Whereas if you have a story that's like a heist or like a chase because, your character's a fugitive or whatever, then it makes sense that stuff keeps happening and happening and happening and happening, because that's the story. All the shit that's happening. Right? You want a lot of stuff to happen. It's not about the character interactions as much as it's about the literal action. Yeah.
I hate to say it, but that's something that Lightlark did well. The tournament, like, what is it? It's like one thing for each of the rulers, which were...
That went quick.
6, I believe.
Yeah, I think.
But between each of the challenges, like, there's time in between, so we get to know the other rulers.
I mean, the challenges suck, but if they were better, the structure would be okay.
Yeah, right? But that's how you do it. You give enough time in between, or enough of a training phase to see the others and be like, oh no,
It's really sad, because I really like the premise, and the cover is so pretty. Like,
I know, the cover is
book.
insanely good.
I'm just
I'm always
I
disappointed when a
can't.
good cover is not backed
Yeah,
up by a good book.
it's so offensive. Magic Steeped in Poison was the same for me. I was like, that cover is so beautiful, but the content is so
I
bad.
was so sad when you told me at the bookstore that, you didn't like it. I was like, what do you mean? It's so pretty. I wanted to get it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I got it at the bookstore. I was like, oh, it's so pretty. And the description doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't it.
I mean, obviously they're good at writing summaries or blurbs, but
Yeah, no. And again, I have to stop reading debut novels. Like, I can't keep doing it. I mean, even debut novels from people I like. Like, a few years ago, I read V.E. Schwab's first novel. It was so bad. It was just not good.
I mean,
It was really bad.
that do be
like,
happening.
Yeah, and like, if people improve, that's great. I mean, you told me Victoria Aveyard has gotten much better in her second series of books than what I remember from Red Queen, which I found mediocre to underwhelming. So it's good. It's good when authors get better. That's the point.
I mean, I haven't read Red Queen, but I really like Realmbreaker. It's nothing else to say. I really love that series.
Yeah. But now let's hear what you have to say.
So my
Let's see where
rewrite.
this is going.
Honestly, by the time we're recording this, we just uploaded our book review on A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet.
Yeah.
So that's how we got talking again, like on the phone, talking about, stuff about the book that we liked and didn't like. For me, it was a 5-star. It's still a 5-star. But that kind of conversation got my mind going a little bit, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try my hand at this, even though I'm not very good at it. So first of all, what it is about, the Goodreads summary. Rosemary Harper doesn't expect much when she joins the crew of the aging Wayfarer. While the patched-up ship has seen better days, it offers her a chance to explore the far-off corners of the galaxy and, most importantly, some distance from her past. An introspective young woman who learned early to keep to herself, she's never met anyone remotely like the ship's diverse crew, including Sissix, the exotic reptilian pilot, chatty engineers Kizzy and Jenks, who keep the ship running, and Ashby, their noble captain. Life aboard the Wayfarer is chaotic and crazy, exactly what Rosemary wants. It's also about to get extremely dangerous when the crew is offered the job of a lifetime. Tunneling wormholes through space to a distant planet is definitely lucrative and will keep them comfortable for years, but risking her life wasn't part of the plan. In the far reaches of deep space, the tiny Wayfarer crew will confront a host of unexpected mishaps and thrilling adventures that force them to depend on each other. To survive, Rosemary's got to learn how to rely on this assortment of oddballs, an experience that teaches her about love and trust, and that having a family isn't necessarily the worst thing in the universe. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is a sci-fi book, but it also has or is being sorted into an overarching genre that's called cozy fiction. Probably, maybe heard of it. Cozy fantasy, legends and lattes, that kind of stuff. And one of the main characteristics of this genre is that it's low stakes. You don't have to worry while reading this book that anything bad, really bad, is going to happen to these characters. There's like no grand thing where you're like, oh my god, I have to worry about this. And for some readers, that results in the book being boring. For me, usually I like cozy books, and in terms of them, I'm like, I can just enjoy a little bit of world building without the risk of anything. And that's why I was struggling so hard to choose this one to rewrite, because I was like, if I'm rewriting parts of this, it's not going to be that cozy anymore in the end. But I said, fuck it. Let's just do that. So it's a lot of small changes that I think add up to a more engaging story. And the thing that I think is the most important factor of any long journey book like The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is that the reason for why you're going this journey has to be enticing enough. In the book, the captain, Ashby, he just gets the information through some more secretive connections, but it's not like Ashby, you're the only one who can do this. It's like, okay, yeah, this job is being offered to do this tunneling thing. And the only reason why he's like, yeah, we should do this is the money, literally. And it's not in the sense of like, I like money, like I'm a greedy little guy. He's thinking of his friends, who's his crew, his ship, you know. He's so wholeheartedly a good person. He's like, yeah, let's do this. Let's take all the money. He goes around asking his crew if they're okay with the whole thing, and they're like, yeah, Ashby, we're so fine. Money, cool. And I feel like you could spice that up a little bit. Oh. And you know, I went back to the wiki because I forgot some facts. And Ashby's conflict in the whole book, or like interesting little thing, is that he has a secret girlfriend from an alien species that does not take kindly to dating outside of their own species due to some fertility issues inside of that species. So people going outside of it's like, why would you do that? We need you here. Come back. We need you to produce for us.
Yeah, but it's also not secret on his side. Like, the people who work with him know about
his best
like,
friend. His best friends know. Sissik knows. I think Jenks knows, and the rest of the crew strongly suspects what is going on. They're like, oh, we're meeting this person again, and she is also, or not. She is not also, but she is somebody who, she's like a freighter. She takes weapons from A to B because her species is like, you have the Galactic Commons. One of the species like was basically the colonizer in the war. The other species had all the weapons, so they were fighting. And then the third species said, let's all stop for a minute. And that's how they built the Galactic Commons. She belongs to the species with all the weapons. And her job is to transport weapons to go and fight against, you know, some other evil species.
Outside the Galactic Commons.
Somebody outside of the Galactic Commons. And the tunneling job is for them to go to the Toremi, who are a species inside or like at the middle of the galaxy, who are also very warmongering aliens there. And the Galactic Commons decided to have one of the Toremi clans, the Toremi Ka, to join the Galactic Commons. And I thought, well, you know, but they're all scheming, kind of, right? Just because this little ship, the Wayfarer, is like a crew of happy people doesn't mean that all of the others are. So I thought the first thing to do would be keep Ashby as the happy-go-lucky guy who's super like heartfelt and everything, but have his girlfriend kind of like use him going there, like convince him to take the job and smuggle stuff on his ship. Because he wouldn't suspect her to do that. But she, you know, would feel under pressure maybe, you know, and still the Toremi are a hostile species. So maybe it might be a good idea to, you know, kind of subvertly get some weapons in there. No big deal. So we as the reader, we know about this. It's the first thing we find out to add some anxiety to the mix. Because we know Ashby doesn't know. We know that we have the mechanics on the ship who know the ship inside and out. It's like the thing of one of the mechanics, Jenks, he's in love with the AI on the ship. So, you know, he could find out any minute. And that would add some spice to every single interaction they have. When they get boarded by the pirates. It's like, are the pirates gonna find out? Are the pirates gonna thinking, we're not on a normal tunneling ship, we're on like a secret spy ship? And then there's gonna be some conflict for the whole crew. When the Quenlins come, which are the aliens that kidnap, well, they don't kidnap, they apprehend Corbin because he's a clone. If they find out, they could see it as an act of war because the Quenlin are in the Galactic Commons, but they're not the trio of the species that have the power. So I thought that would be an interesting little change. And then they set off on their journey, and Rosemary, the main character, she runs away from, you know, her past, as it's said in the summary. She runs away because her father She's from Mars, from the colony. Her father got into big money on Mars because he has like this huge company, energy something, blah blah. But he got caught it's not a controversy. He got caught committing war crimes by selling weapons to several sides in a war, and it was like biological.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not that he sold weapons,
it's biological warfare. Yeah, biological warfare.
I think they were like gene targeting or something. It was
it was like really ruthless stuff.
It was really bad.
Yeah. It was like there's some like sometimes in this book you're like, oh well, that's not so cozy after all. Like some little.
Does it even count as a cozy read? I feel like too much stakes are in this to count as a cozy read. Like. It's not a high stakes, but it's still like.
I feel like I felt most time it was pretty low stakes.
Yeah, a lot of it was just conversations, but there are a few times, and especially the climax, I feel like that doesn't.
The climax is yeah. I mean, they get bombed, but
yeah, I feel like that's not quite like. I feel like it's not quite a cozy read in the way other.
I mean, I've seen it categorized as a cozy a lot of times, so maybe that's some bias on my side because I've seen it like this a lot of times. Especially, I think it also, if this was a fantasy, it would not be considered that cozy, but because in sci-fi usually you have a little bit of a different how exciting and gruesome are things kind of
What do you mean there's not that many laser gun fights? Is it even sci-fi if there aren't?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Rosemary's father like does a lot of fucked up shit, and she runs away. And in the beginning, we as a reader don't know why she runs away, and later we find out she runs away simply because she was involved in the company of her father, which is normal. You know, if you
it's not even because she was involved. I feel like it was mostly because people knew her as the kid of the guy who did the war
like
crimes.
on Mars they knew her. Yeah. They didn't even have to hear her name. They would just see her face and immediately associate it with her father. But she goes as far as, you know, they have chips in their arms, like their ID card and everything, and she goes as far as to use all of her savings to buy a new one, like on the black market, have somebody insert the new chip into her arm, and basically get a new identity. And when the whole thing comes out, everybody's like, well, I mean, you know.
It's not a big deal. Why did you do this?
I mean, maybe Ashby wouldn't have hired you if he knew, like, had seen your name and associated you immediately with your father, but then also, again,
Ashby was pretty desperate.
Ashby was, first of all, pretty desperate to seem more professional by getting, like, a professional secretary, professional person who does this kind of work. And additionally, Ashby is the one character, I mean, Rosemary can't know, but Ashby is the one character who's like, I don't care what happened to you before in your life. I care about what you do and like, how you behave now. And that's the only thing I'm going to take into consideration. So, especially with Ashby being her boss, that's like, to me, that was the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, so, me too. I also found that super disappointing. The reveal, I was just like, wait, that's it? You didn't even do anything wrong?
So I think one of the simplest, smallest little of changes would be to actually involve Rosemary in the whole problem. Make her, like, have her had a part in it. And if it was just really small, if it was her enabling her father to get the finances to do it, even without, like, her knowing that she was explicitly doing so, just kind of involve her in something so that she actually becomes like a mini criminal. That there's actually some part that would make people say, dang, Rosemary, that fucking sucks. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she needed to do something bad. Like, come on. Like,
because then, like, they go onto the first planet. Wait, what was the name? Port Coriol. They go there, and that port is mainly in the book is to show that some of the cultural aspect of the species that Syzyx is from, the reptiles, and for Jenks to go to the mechanic to get a body mod for the AI on their ship. But Rosemary goes there and she's like, oh my god, it's the first time. It would make much more sense if she was a genuine criminal for her to go onto that planet and be paranoid that she was actually going to be recognized. Even though it's like an out of the system kind of Outer Banks situation of a planet, she would still be far more paranoid and would just be more fun. More fun, but more interesting to see her actually handle that situation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change anything about not my favorite, but I'd say my second favorite character, Corbin, the algist.
I love him.
Because I like a spiteful scientist. I enjoyed him as a character, and I enjoyed the aspect of him being a clone and be like so spiteful for his father and everything that happened to him. I don't know. I wouldn't change anything about that character arc. It was good. It was really nice.
He's also so refreshing because everyone else on the ship is like almost too nice most of the time, and I'm like, this doesn't feel like real people. But he's just like, I see him and I'm like, yeah. You're
I
like
can
a
relate.
co-worker people now. You're so real. Yeah.
So I really liked that part. I also wouldn't change much about the whole AI thing that happens with the ship. So in the book, they managed to get, after, a couple of planets that they visit, they managed to arrive at the center of the galaxy. They have a little chat with the aliens there. And because they have like supernatural hearing, natural for them, but for humans, supernatural hearing, they pick up like a tiny thing of the crew being like, oh, these people here are weird. Like, hopefully we don't get killed. And they see this as, an act of aggression and actively bomb the Wayfarer while it's starting to build the tunnel to the Galactic Commons. And throughout that process, the AI of the ship gets damaged and in the end gets rebooted, but the memory core is gone. And I like that. I felt like that was a real consequence to things happening in the book, especially because the whole, I'm not gonna choose the body kit thing is resolved quite early on, I feel, before you would expect it to be resolved. I think it's resolved like 2/3 throughout the book. And I mean, in the end, the new AI decides, you know what? I actually would like that body kit. I don't have my memories. I don't know who I am. I'm gonna fuck out of here. You could buy something new for your ship. I'm leaving. And that was a satisfying ending to that plot. What I would like to change about the ending of the book, and that's kind of the second to last bigger changes. No, the one of the bigger changes would be the interaction with the Toremi, like the actual aliens that they're visiting, because so they are aliens which this is like a normal trope in science fiction. They're an alien species that lives after a pattern. Like they try to find a pattern in something and they live according to that pattern. And it's all very logic. And their solution to enforcing the pattern is aggression, which I think is it's refreshing, because usually it's like when you have the logical thing, it's very devoid of emotion. Yeah. And the Toremi are like, no, we're just gonna bomb shit.
They're like, no, the most logical part is eliminate everyone who doesn't see the pattern the way I do.
Exactly. And the Toremi are all made of these different clans who see different patterns. They all believe in the pattern, but they're like, our pattern looks like this. Yours looks like that, which is wrong. So we're gonna bomb you.
I was like, this is just like fandoms online for real. This is like Voltron.
It's like the different fan cannons, like just surrounding the center of the universe. Yes. And I would have loved more interaction with them. We do get some introspection into the species by one of the characters being one of those aliens, but they didn't give me enough of that one. I really, really would have loved to see more of those aliens and more on their take on them being connected to the rest of the Galactic Commons. And maybe, since we have the other species are also not kind of that happy, well, in my rewrite, not happy with the connection of the Toremi to the Galactic Commons, putting a little bit more spice in there. Not sexual spice. Not that. But
Drama.
more like, yeah, more drama. I think would do the book well. And one last thing, but that's like a really small thing. Like a genuinely really small thing. I would have liked for Ohan to... That was the ape species with the virus or parasite. I would have liked for Ohan to meet the other ones on the planet they're not a bonded pair anymore. Because I feel like that would give it a whole lot of more, again, drama, but also a lot more agency about the whole getting the injection kind of thing. I don't know. I thought it would be more interesting. He's very adamant of not wanting to talk to them because he's like, oh no, they're talking shit and stuff. But is he scared of talking to them because they might convince him that it's a good idea to get the injection? Or is it just the hubris of saying, oh, they're dumb because they don't have their little friend anymore in their mind that makes them see rainbows in space? So that's another...
I was under the impression it's... the parasite that's like, no, either we kill them or we don't speak to them. But
see, that's what I wanted to find out. I would have liked
as
to...
a self-protection measure, like, no, any of them that don't have it anymore are like us, and they might not like the parasite, so they might try to destroy it. So obviously the parasites are like, no, we are not doing that.
Yeah, and I would have liked to... That was a concept I really, really liked in the book.
Yeah.
I could read a whole book just about Ohan. I vibe with the old ape in that book.
Yeah.
But
I think I agree that also with the Toremi, it's like, it feels a little strange to spend basically all book just like witnessing the crew have their shenanigans and they're on their travel. The Toremi feel like a bit of an afterthought. Yeah, you regularly have like the chapters interspersed of the one Toremi character we have, but it still feels like it's just a conflict that happens in the periphery. And it's like, it's a bit strange that then is the catalyst for the climax when there's so little of
they hear them
it.
talk shit about at the party.
Yeah, it feels very abrupt. It's I don't know, I feel like you could have had this book without, either without including the Toremi at all, or you could have had them more.
It would have been... you could take them out completely and make it a sort of, we need somebody to travel to the center of the universe kind of thing.
Yeah,
we don't know
there's a lot of resources over there, but we don't have a tunnel yet. No one wants to go there because it's way out of the way.
We don't know what to
work.
expect. Like, it could be crazy. Our scans aren't well... Like, something that makes them go, oh, we're like being pioneers. We're boldly going where no one has gone before. Or involve the Toremi a little bit more. It's literally called Angry Planet. Long way to a small angry planet, because that's what the Toremi about. It's a small planet, lots of small planets, and they're very angry.
I thought the angry reference is to the new planet that was forming that had a lot of seismic activity and like was reforming and covered in lava and stuff. That was right there at the center of... Like, I thought there was this new planet that was disrupting the patterns, and that was why the Toremi were having a shakeup. And they called that planet angry because it was still... But
wasn't that because of the... What's it called? Of the... Whenever they have a new birth of a new mother, the Toremi, it's like a... They call it a thing that it disturbs the pattern, but like the new planet, but it's connected to the...
Yeah, no, of course it is connected, but I was like, I think the Teremi aren't on that planet. The planet's angry because it's also still in.
Yeah. Well, they're not yet on that planet, but I
Yeah,
think
no.
they were planning.
Yeah,
That was
no,
one of the things that they
it
were
was important
also
to them.
discussing. That they were like, well, there's a new mother going to be born, and there's a new like pattern emergence, and things are changing, and all that. Involve that more. I feel like Becky Chambers had a lot of very interesting ideas in terms of, like, it's clearly inspired by Mass Effect. Clearly, I've played that series long enough to recognize it immediately.
Guys who's
Just-
only played Mass Effect. I'm getting strong Mass Effect energy.
Like the way that the whole system is built. I mean, having a galactic commons or like an alliance or whatever is not.
Yeah, standard.
Yeah, that's standard fantasy, science fiction. But the vibes,
Yeah.
the vibes are very Mass Effect-y. And she spent a lot of time building lore around these alien species, and she tries in a lot of different instances to give us more of this lore. But I feel like either reduce the crew a little bit to give us more about the outside, or, you know, sprinkle a little bit more alien into the crew. Because we do, in the end, still have a lot of humans in that crew.
Yeah, also,
So-
like, give those people some more drama. I feel like a lot of them have, like, maybe something in their history that's not great, but not a lot going on present.
Yeah.
Which
No,
makes
they don't.
sense. If you're stuck on a small ship with people for a long time, you need people who are amiable and, like, can get along and stuff. But it's also not that interesting to read about if everyone's, you know...
Yeah. I mean,
No.
I've seen people say in the reviews and stuff that they're like, this is so, and what you've said earlier, this is so unnatural. No coworkers like each other this much. But it's like,
No,
first
if
of
you
all, it is
specifically
possible.
like if you specifically hire people specifically because they will get along, because you need them to get along, otherwise you'll all kill each other. That's reasonable. Like in an office job, it's not important, but if you're stuck in a small space for years
Like they're
together
living there.
with no
Yeah,
one else, like
exactly.
you need people to get along, obviously.
Yeah. So that's with that one I was like,
That's
yeah.
a silly compliment.
But
yeah.
when I went through the characters, I was like, what would I like to rewrite? What would I like to change? There is one character, Kizzy. She's one of the two engineers.
She's
And it was
something
like-
going on.
And I was like, what was going on with Kizzy? Because, you know, as you said, I mean, Sissix has the thing of, you know, she misses her feather family, I think it was.
Yeah. And she can tell us about her alien lore.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
she's for.
Tell us about her alien lore. Then we have Jenks, who is a human with a dwarfism. And the thing about him is that his mother was part of like a go back to Earth cult. And she
who were like, no
birthed
technology, all of it is evil.
like she birthed him naturally, no prenatal care or anything, and then she saved him from that cult because they were like, oh
They
shit,
were
this is what
eugenicists,
happens
Yeah.
when you don't do like
Yeah, they were like, oh, well, we
Yeah.
don't want this in our human gene pool, you know, because we're...
so they want to kill the baby. She's like, nah, she takes him, she walks through the jungle. It's like, it would be more interesting to read about his mom, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he
Mom-
has the AI thing going on, at least. Like, he has a
He
thing
has-
going on
Yeah.
that causes drama because also the body kit is highly illegal, and if anyone found it, he'd get the entire crew in trouble. They might all get killed or whatever.
It's already it's already highly illegal for them to have an actual AI on the
Yeah.
ship, and Rosemary realizes that pretty quickly. She's like, "You're a bit too nifty for normal."
Too
like-
personable. That's not
What are you? And then Lovey, the AI, is like, "Oh well, you know." But Kizzy, she's in quotation marks just an engineer. She is the fun, happy-go-lucky kind of character.
Yeah, we just
But
have
there's-
her and her
there's, like-
family on that weird planet with like the guns they make and like the tinkering they do.
Yeah, but there's
But
nothing.
otherwise, Yeah.
There's not really more to that, and I feel like she's only there to give a third perspective to the Rosemary Ashby conflict of Rosemary coming from Mars and Ashby coming from one of the Exodus ships that were sent away from Earth, and the people living on these Exodus ships for centuries, even though they don't even have to anymore, which is why Ashby is such a pacifist guy, and he's so good at keeping the Wayfarer in check, because that's the mentality of the people he lived up with. But that's like kind of the only job that Kizzy's there for. So I felt like
I don't
maybe,
know. She feels like she could be replaced by an alien who's a little stranger who has more going on than just another human. I agree. The best character is obviously Dr. Chef.
Dr. Chef, who in German is called Dr. Koch, but Dr. Chef I think is he's a really cool character. I felt like with him it was okay-ish again, that he doesn't have anything dramatic going on currently, because his past life and everything was such a compelling story that it gives enough context.
The thing is also that, like, his heart-to-heart with Rosemary would mean so much more if she'd actually done something.
Like, he's like, I have been part of a genocide. Like, literally. I have killed people mercilessly. Then I was a doctor. And I've seen people being destroyed by the very weapons that I have fired and helped, conceptualize.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I have seen my children die because of it. Yeah. I buried all of them.
Like, all of my beautiful children, all of them dead. And, like, I only managed to get through the PTSD and the like, trauma by cooking. And that's why I'm a cook now, by the way.
Yeah.
And he says that to Rosemary, a girl who literally has not hurt a fly in her whole fucking life.
What's the point? Like, it would make such a better connection for them, because the other characters are like, oh, you should talk to Dr. Chef if you feel guilty about this. He's done work on himself. He knows how to work through this.
Yeah.
And it's like, but she didn't even do anything.
It would be so much more interesting to have this difference between the new, fresh trauma and the person who worked through it kind of guiding the other. But yeah, that's the I mean, I tried really hard, okay? That's the
Yeah, I know.
I
made it hard for you. I gave you books that were, like, difficult to rewrite. I understand.
I don't think they'd be difficult to rewrite for other people, but for me, there's just a lot of it that I really like.
You resonated so much with the stuff that was already in there.
Yeah.
And like, I also know you're not, like, again, I proposed the whole, like, game thing because I love doing that. I love reconceptualizing stories and, like, taking their elements and rearranging them and stuff. I like doing that. So, of course, I'm like, yeah, I love the rewriting part.
I tried really hard. But yeah, I think if you spice up lots of the individual decisions in the book,
it becomes change quite a bit.
Yeah, and if you change if you make the whole journey more perilous by knowing that there's this secret on the ship, and that once they arrive at the center of the universe, you're like, what's gonna happen? Are people gonna recognize there's weapons there? Did she maybe plan to bomb or something? Would she bomb her own boyfriend? This kind of...
Yeah, I think it's like, it would be more meaningful if everyone had some sort of dangerous secret. Rosemary has her thing, and if Ashby also had a thing, and then we have the body kit, which is dangerous to everyone. We have the drugs, I think, they have at some point, and then have to destroy...
Well, I mean, they take weed. Like, Jenks and Kizzy, they smoke weed.
Yeah, but there is something they have to destroy when the bug people catch them, because it's illegal there, and they're
that's their space weed that they destroy.
Like, they have something that can get them in trouble. They could have some, like, engineering that's not up to code that could get them. There's, like, it would be a bit more engaging. Like, I didn't even remember, like, Kizzy, because I was like, what does she even contribute? Like, what?
Yeah, she doesn't.
She doesn't really have a
much
thing like the others.
Yeah.
In the same way. But yeah.
So that's my rewrite. Next time maybe you choose books I don't like. I think it's gonna be.
Next time I'm gonna. But it's hard because you're so nice to books. So there's a lot of things that are rated very well. I was debating being like, maybe I should just do the 3 Crescent City books, but then it's like very obvious. Like, okay, you'd keep the first one because it's the best one, and like probably
True.
chuck the last one, and like so that was like that's too obvious. I was also debating being like, okay, all the first books and series from Sarah J. Maas, I'd like to see you deal with that or something.
Oh my god, that'd be
That
so
could be
interesting.
fun. I think that would be my suggestion for you for next time, because I feel like there's a lot to work with. We can also think about if we want to do this with a series and not just books in that case, because I feel like
yeah.
if you could influence, because like it's not like you can suggest a second book or something, because a lot of problems with a book are often, if it's in a series, like they're birthed in the first book but only become like a toddler that pukes on your shoes in the second book, where you're like, oh, this was a problem, oops, you know.
It's like it would have been fine if we just forgotten about the whole
thing. You can't fix
thing.
it anymore in the second book because the problem, you know.
It kind of arises from the beginning. But yeah. Well, this was fun.
This was I liked it. I thought this.
I enjoyed it a lot.
How this went.
I think we should do this
we need to do
more
this
often. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. You
Yeah.
can give your ratings for the books. Maybe you don't agree with it.
If
the way we
you've
did
read
it.
any of them, like if you also have some like rewriting thoughts, or if you're like, no, I need this burnt immediately.
I would also be interested if you have a book that, like, as in my situation with A Monster Calls, where it could be like, I could never not keep this book. Because then I would maybe like to read it. So if you have a suggestion there, you can write that in the comments.
Yeah, if you have like a beloved book where you're like, no, this is exactly as it should be. There is no fixing anything because it's just right.
I'm already seeing the next episode's just you giving me 3 books from the the Edge Chronicles. Being like, have fun again. No.
I'll be nicer next time.
Thank you. With that being said, thank you so much for listening, and see you in the next one, or hear you.
See you in the next one.
Bye bye.